Welcome to this episode of Cardinal Film Fights. I'm your judge and moderator, Mark Rollins. Before I keep going, I just want to let you know, if you came here for a certain fight, click in the description that is below in the post-editing part. It's not here now, so, but it is there in your now, but not my now. Two different nows. Whoa, existentialism. So, today we have Max Van Dongen.
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, perfect. Stephen Mason and Logan Lewis. I'm going to pass it off to you guys, and you can just tell me a little bit about yourselves. Just give your year and your major, and repeat your name again.
All right, well, my name is Logan Lewis. I am a sophomore telecommunications major. This is my second time on Cardinal Film Fights, and I'm hoping to keep my undefeated streak alive.
Very nice, very nice. Max?
Hey everybody, my name is Max Van Dongen. I am a sophomore telecommunications major, and a shout out to Daisy Ridley, just get that right off the bat. I'm really happy to be back. I had a lot of fun last time.
I'm Stephen Mason. I'm a freshman. I'm in TCOM. Long-time listener, first-time player. I like long walks on the beach, petting dogs, rescuing orphans, and ready to give them my all.
Wow. Very, very, wow. Well, in the good person category.
Single and ready to mingle.
Oh, okay.
Somebody please date me.
For our fact checker, we have Von Storm. He's over there. You can't see him. Even I can't see him. He's kind of in the shadows. It's a little mysterious.
He works
for
in
our
the
title
shadows.
scorekeeper, we have Paige and Morgan. We have Paige. And then, so in this order, just to run it down again, we're going to have 4 questions that I've put in random order. The scoring is based on ranking. Person in first place gets 3 points. Person in second place gets 2 points. Person in third place gets 1 point. And the last round is worth double points, so it's really anyone's game until the final round. Now, the format is a 60-second intro in which you state your answer and follow it with a brief explanation of why you picked that, followed by a 5-minute forum where you get to go at each other's throats, tear each other down, build yourselves up, really let loose with your psychological traumas and issues, but cover it in the film guise of like cinema.
Yeah.
And then after that is a 30-second conclusion where you get to gather up all the arguments and make a final pitch for your choice. Without further ado, let's get started. First question, best Stephen King adaptation, and we're going to start with our minute introductions, and let's start with Stephen.
Okay, Stephen with Stephen. I like it. Okay, I chose The Green Mile. Okay, The Green Mile is Stephen King's best adaptation because it evokes the emotion of sorrow. When you think about his stories, you usually think about horror, like in The Shining, or you think about a sense of like wonder, like in Stand By Me or The Dark Tower. But what Green Mile does is evoke sorrow, and it does this effectively, like it goes straight for the heart with John Coffey's horrible injustice. And John Coffey is a gentle giant. He loves everything, he loves everybody, but he's on death row. He's walking the Green Mile. And there's nothing you can say or do or anything that characters can do to get him away from this. And it's just an impending doom of sorrow and tears, and it brings forth emotions that you just don't get in a King movie.
Awesome. Next, we'll go right down the line to Max.
All right, for the best Stephen King adaptation, I picked The Shawshank Redemption because that's the only movie that I was teased about for never seeing as a film buff, and I totally see why. Have you ever heard of the International Movie Database? Well, guess what their number 1 is, and that's The Shawshank Redemption. It's a beautiful tale of friendship, freedom, and most importantly, hope. It's not only a wonderful film to watch, but also one to reflect on about the prison within that keeps you from truly living.
Awesome. And finally, we'll finish off with Logan.
All right, I chose It, the most recently released It. I chose it because it was the most successful movie of the 3 by far. It broke a lot of records. It redeemed the franchise from its poor performance from the 1990s. Every performance from the kids to Pennywise himself were fantastic. It was just a wonderful movie. I had a wonderful time watching it in cinema, and I think it's the best Stephen King adaptation.
Okie dokie, gentlemen. We will now start the 5-minute forum, so have at it.
Okay, so here's my problem with it. It's just way too early to call it to be the best Stephen King adaptation, as we haven't gotten the full story yet. It could be a standalone, but it relies on in the end saying It Chapter 2, and we don't know what that's going to be like yet, because definitely from the original, the weakest part was the adult stuff, and I'm kind of worried about how that's going to turn out. For the Green Mile, it's just way too long.
I agree.
Too much
Yeah.
fluff. 3
it's
hours.
terrible. Awful.
The supernatural aspect to it could have been cut out, and we could have just forgotten about that. And I know that's from the book, but I mean, the movie can change whatever, and that definitely could have been forgotten about.
Well, that's one of the things that Stephen King does. He does supernatural stuff like in The Shining, The Dark Tower. That's his bread and butter. And he balances the emotional side of Shawshank and the supernatural side that it really has going for it.
Well, Shawshank goes without the supernatural, and everything Shawshank does is so much better. It's got powerful performances, much better performances, great bad guys. It's #1 IMDb and has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, where it has 85% and Green Mile only has 80. It's an emotionally satisfying and has powerful messages, way more powerful than the Green Mile has.
Now, okay, so I want to bring it back and defend it. The hype for this movie was incredible, and it lived up to the hype. And now there's so much hype going into the next movie that it's just gonna skyrocket. And I personally feel with how they went with casting the characters, casting Pennywise, they are going to do just as well a job casting the adults, and I bet the adults are going to do even better than the kids, which I thought the kids did a wonderful job.
Well, I don't know about that, because definitely the best part of it is the kids stuff, and the kids were great, but the adult stuff is very weak. And yeah, the casting is going to be important, but that isn't a surefire it's going to be a hit. It was just the horror and the coming of age stuff just was not well balanced. The horror stuff was just downright silly with the dancing. That was so silly, and it didn't work out for me. In the final fight where they just beat up Pennywise was just so bad. Like, why would they do that? There was an alternate ending where it was more personal between Bill and Pennywise, but they should have gone down that route, and it just looked so silly when they just beat up Pennywise with chains and baseball bats.
I don't know, man. I loved it. I loved pretty much every part of this movie. I thought the horror aspect was great. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time while watching this movie. Unlike watching these two movies, because I was bored to death in both because of how long they were, especially Green Mile. Like Max brought up, the Green Mile it felt like a life sentence. It really did. Well, it's terrible.
It's about the same length as Shawshank. They're both roughly around 2 hours and 20 minutes.
No, Green Mile's like 3 hours long.
Well, Green Mile is 3 hours long. It's way too long. I agree with you
yeah.
there.
Well, say that.
But they're about the same length. Where Shawshank, there's so much. The very important aspect of film is the emotional aspect to it, because it's what relates the audience to the characters. And if there's nothing there, then there's nothing to care about. And Shawshank has a powerful message of hope and freedom, and it's a movie to reflect on, that you can take more than just the watching surface level of it. There's so much you can think about after watching it. It was a movie I just leaned back and I went, oh, that was beautiful. Just such a beautiful
One of the
movie.
big things I didn't like about Shawshank Redemption, I personally didn't like how many subplots there were in Shawshank. Like, to list some, Andy's relationship with Warden Norton, with Red, with Tommy, with prison guard Hadley, with the sisters, Andy as a financial advisor, and these aren't even all of them. There's so many subplots to follow that it got really convoluted and really confusing.
Well, it all ties back in the end with how he escapes with all the money and all that. The bad guys, it really shows how he has a tough time at the start of the prison, but one of the best parts of the Shawshank is watching him grow within the prison and have these relationships with these people. That's one of the best parts of the movie.
Do you have any defense against the length accusation there, Steven?
Yes, I do, and I feel very rudely cut off. Like you said, it's a life sentence. You get the sense of time that he's walking the mile. He's not running the mile. He's taking a walk.
The slowest walk in the world.
Exactly. He's a big guy. He can't move too fast. And, it has subplots. Not it, but the Green Mile has subplots. And they're pretty good. You got to admit.
They're pretty good. Great defense.
Too much fluff. The payoff of that movie
Yeah.
was not great at all, because
No,
it was
it wasn't.
there was no tension, because we knew he was innocent. So it was kind of like
Yeah.
the payoff as to, is the guy working on the family's farm, is kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, whatever. We knew he was innocent,
Yeah,
so
and-
it had to be somebody.
And Green Mile is also considered by some just like a different Shawshank with different characters. Like Shawshank is just like the better prison movie, but in regards to Stephen King adaptations, it is the best one.
I disagree.
Throw that in at the end there. So the
So-
time had to get a plug in.
So we're going to go to our 30-second conclusions, and we'll start with Logan.
Like I said before, it is by far the most successful Stephen King adaptation. Combined box office earnings, it is more than Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile combined. It was a wonderful first part, and it just goes to show that the things can get better with franchises like this. It got way better from the 1990s, and I have high hopes for the second part, and I feel that this Stephen King will be the best Stephen King adaptation.
And Max?
The Shawshank Redemption's themes and filmmaking are more powerfully done and is by far the strongest Stephen King adaptation. Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb would agree with me there, and so would general audiences. It has wonderful performances, narration, and stories that leave you with a powerful message and a smile on your face when the credits roll. Green Mile is just way too long, too much fluff. The supernatural aspect just could have been cut out. With box office, that means nothing. Transformers 2 made a ton of money, but that movie's terrible, so that really means nothing. And it went with the damsel distress thing at the end, and it was so bad.
And Steven.
The Green Mile sticks to its theme, as it doesn't really stick to its theme of horror. When they overcome the horror and defeat Pennywise, just felt kind of convoluted, and they needed to win because they were the heroes. And I can't really say much about Shawshank Redemption other than the fact that the Green Mile's lead actor beat Shawshank Redemption's lead actor for Best Lead Actor Oscar that year. Tom Hanks, look it up.
2 different years, wasn't it?
Okay. Anybody have thoughts that they are dying to express? No, just me. Okay.
Mouth noises.
I know, yeah. It proves that I'm thinking. Proves it.
Mouth noises.
Can't make mouth noises unless you're thinking. So, I'm going to have to give third place to Steven.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid you just couldn't pick up much traction after the accusations of
Yeah.
the long run time.
They got me.
Second place, I'm going to give to Logan. Because I feel that Max made a good point. It's really early to decide whether or not this is the best Stephen King adaptation or not. And Max, you get first place because you never really had any arguments stick against you or anything like. Oh, fact checking, Vaughn. Just remember that. Oh, never mind. It's all
False alarm.
false alarm.
All true.
All true. Excuse me. Just to recap, third place is Steven, second place Logan, and first place Max. Now, for our second question. No, I don't have a good segue for this. Last episode, I had good segues. I don't know if it was purposely made so I couldn't have good segues. Probably was. Anywho. Second question. Best film trilogy. Let's start with Max.
Star Wars. The perfect trilogy. A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi all combined to put together an exciting, fun, revolutionary, emotional, funny, grim, dark, and entertaining trilogy featuring some of the best characters in film score put to screen. It has it all. This movie has changed lives. People get married because of Star Wars. I don't see anybody proposing in front of that alien Christopher Nolan pretending to be a human, or this is terrible, or in front of Heath Ledger's grave. There's a reason why Star Wars movies are still being made today, and that's because the love of that original 3 is so strong by the most dedicated fan base.
Wow.
That hurt, man.
Ow!
It's such
Too
a Heath Ledger thing.
soon.
Too soon.
Shots fired in the
Got those scars from that.
So if people were proposing like in front of Heath Ledger's grave, would like the bride be like, "You want to know how I got this ring?" Like,
You never know.
sorry, that was. I'll stop. Please don't cancel the
My
show
mother was a
mid-episode.
jeweler.
Okay, let's go to Logan next.
The Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy is the greatest superhero trilogy of all time. It was consistently a great franchise from beginning to end, with each movie being at least an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. It didn't have the large downtrend that these other two trilogies had. It created the greatest villain of all time in Heath Ledger's Joker, in my opinion, the greatest villain of all time. And it was an inspiration for a good amount of superhero content that we see today, like of the darker variety, like some of the new Supermans, Daredevil, a lot of the superhero TV shows on right now. And like I said, it's considered the best superhero trilogy of all time. So my pick is the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy.
And Steven.
Okay, my pick is Back to the Future. Back to the Future is the best trilogy because of its characters. Dr. Emmett Brown and Marty McFly have great chemistry. They could be on the periodic table if they wanted to. This is in part because of the believability. I'm sorry for that. When they mess up, and boy do they mess up, they do so in a believable way that they strive and claw their way to remedy. Like part 2 was solely to make right what was once wrong. And let's not forget, the DeLorean is the most iconic time travel machine in any form of media. The TARDIS has nothing on it. All these qualities make Back to the Future the best movie trilogy.
Okay.
Ding.
Strong feelings, which is good. Yes. Now harness that and kill each other. Let's start our 5-minute round.
Okay, I want to come at Back to the Future for a second.
Oh boy.
In Back to the Future, there are so many plot holes, just tons of plot holes. Like one that was glaring to me was, how did George and Lorraine not recognize Marty when he was the one that brought them together, as high school sweethearts? That's one of the biggest plot holes to me, and that's not the only one. There are tons of plot holes in the series in general.
You gonna remember someone you didn't see for 30 years? You don't remember their
But
face?
it was
Exactly.
a big moment.
Important, yeah.
That's why they got married. So how would you not recognize the person? It's like, hey, this is weird.
And that's a good point, but let's not forget how forgettable the third one is.
Oh,
And
my
nobody
Lord.
would. Everybody says it's not even worth the time.
It turns into a Western. It's just a Western
Yeah,
comedy for most of them.
Yeah, and after the first one's great, but after that it goes downhill because
quick.
Well, I watched the second one on the day it really happened when they all thought the future date, and it was kind of like, because that was my favorite as a kid, but then I was kind of like, wow, because we watched the first one and the second one back to back, and I was like, it did not hold up at all compared to the first one. The problem with the Dark Knight trilogy, the Dark Knight puts the other two on its back. Well, Heath Ledger really does. People really remember that trilogy for Heath Ledger. Batman Begins is fine at best. The villains are kind of lame through the Scarecrow, and Ra's al Ghul is okay. The Dark Knight Rises was just downright disappointing. The ending was just terrible, with the poor choreography between Batman and Bane in the final fight, and then Bruce Wayne appears out of nowhere in Gotham. That was just terrible. The stupid "is he dead" ending, where it shows him seconds before the nuclear blast goes off, but I know they fixed the autopilot, but they showed him second in the bat whatever wing thing seconds before the thing goes off. And look, Batman, he can't swim away from a nuclear bomb, because the series takes
Batman.
itself so seriously, and that just
Because
goofed it
it's
all.
amazing, that's why. Let me swing at Star Wars for a second.
Okay.
Harrison Ford's character, this is bad. It's
Han Solo.
no. Well, he's just a guy that has seen a lot of stuff. That's his whole character. He didn't have a good character.
He's charismatic as hell. What do you mean?
I wouldn't say that.
Oh man, come on now.
And the third movie in the series just lets the entire series down big time.
No, the ending.
Hamill didn't have a really good performance in that movie. It had repetitive aspects, and it was just the weakest story-wise of the three Star Wars movies.
Well, The Empire Strikes Back is regarded as the best in the series. However, A New Hope is my favorite because it's fun and it's exciting, and the mythology and all the worlds it builds, it's incredible. But Return of the Jedi has my favorite scene in the whole series, and it's because the ending is handled so well. My favorite scene is when Luke faces his father in the end, where he's kind of on the balance between the dark and the light, and he's when Darth Vader threatens to convert Leia to the dark side, and he goes off on him. And the music, John Williams' score is so beautiful. The Battle of Endor Medley 2, I believe it is. It's beautiful. It fits so well within the scene. It brings me to tears every time because Luke,
Every single time.
it does, because Luke, Luke, he's on the light side. He doesn't want to face his father. He told you he doesn't want to fight his father. But the fact that he snaps at him is just, it's because the character development is so strong in that series.
Hold up, I gotta say, Star Wars has some of the weakest character development ever.
It does.
Maybe
I
not
agree.
character development, but like the characters just feel so wooden. Like they're so robotic. C-3PO feels like the most.
He's literally a robot.
He's literally a robot, and he's the most human one.
Well, look at Luke.
Everybody's delivery is like.
Look at Luke's arc.
Use
He
the
becomes
Force.
well, people criticize him for being kind of whiny at the start with the power converter, but look at him in the Return of the Jedi, where he's completely like changed. He's a true Jedi.
Yeah, he's developed, but he hasn't
Thank you.
developed into someone interesting. He's developed into a slightly less whiny wooden block.
Well, let's not forget that Star Wars, the original trilogy, has one of the greatest twists of all time, the Luke, I am your father. That changed everything. Everything.
I wouldn't say it changed everything.
Yeah, it did. The bad guy's his father.
The bad guy's his father. Does that change the Ewoks?
It changes his relationship and how he sees the bad guy, because originally he was mad he killed off Obi-Wan, but now he's like, oh my God, that guy's my father. Now I have to face him, because that's what he's like been training for.
Does that change that the Empire is evil?
It changes the relationship, because the most powerful thing of Star Wars is the themes of family without, and that's why people go nuts over it. On top of the mythology, is because people can relate to that, the family themes within.
But in regards to a trilogy, I feel the Dark Knight trilogy is best because it didn't have the downtrend that either of yours had. It consistently
The Dark
stayed
Knight
really
Rises?
good.
The Dark
Yeah,
Knight
it
Rises.
is
Oh, it
rated better
blew
than Batman Begins.
Okay. Woo. Compelling arguments. Let's see. Let's start with Steven.
Okay, so other than shaping the perception of time travel, Back to the Future never took itself too seriously. The plot holes are forgivable because it's not trying to be serious like Batman, and it's not trying to be some grand scheme of philosophy like Star Wars is. So imagine the fun that it holds, and that's what it holds. You're not supposed to focus on something trivial like, yeah,
Okay. We'll go to Logan
like time
next.
limits.
In regards to a trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy was the most consistent in regards to being great. Like I said before, each movie was at least an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes or higher. It didn't have the downtrend of the other two movies, with one of the Back to the Futures, I believe, being in the 60s on Rotten Tomatoes. And it, like I said before, it created the greatest film villain of all time in Heath Ledger's Joker. And with those aspects, I feel that the Dark Knight trilogy is the best film trilogy.
And we'll finish with Max.
Star Wars, as crazy and out there as it is in the fictional galaxy world, the father, son, and family themes it carries is the reason why people love it so much. It is able to relate to its audience. On top of the emotional aspects, Star Wars is thrilling, quotable, memorable, and exciting, and all three are handled with more care than its competitors in the fight. I mean, you mentioned a lot about The Dark Knight because, like I said, it carries the other two on its back, and the third Back to the Future movie is just so forgettable that, that's the epitome of a third one that did not handle the rest of the trilogy, and the fanboy mentality of Batman makes it overrated.
Okay. Ugh. Fax Vaughn?
Max totally destroys your entire argument. Darth Vader says, "No, I am your father," not Luke, I am your father.
It's the same thing.
Roasted!
Oh, well, that
didn't destroy it all.
That changes everything. No. Thoughts? Do people have thoughts? Oh, Stuart's got thoughts.
Oh boy.
I'm not going to say anything about Star Wars, not like I argued that or anything, but I just want to personally say I think Back to the Future Part 3 is actually better than Part 2 in my personal opinion. I think
Exactly.
it goes back to like the traditional ways of the first Back to the Future, but anyway, that's nothing to do with your guys' argument. I think
interesting.
Max won, and that's
Add.
unbiased.
Okay. Anybody else have thoughts that they want to express? No.
Hey, you wanna take my seat?
Gosh. Okay. Well, let's see. Star Wars' characters and plot were attacked. In the third movie was attacked. The Dark Knight characters and plot were attacked, and the third movie was really attacked. And Back to the Future, the characters and plot were attacked.
The
and
characters
third,
were not attacked.
And the third. Oh. Ooh,
Doesn't make it good.
That's where you're wrong, kiddo.
this could be interesting. Okay. I'm going to start with first place this time. Max, you get first place.
Yeah.
I think you had a lot coming at you, and you did very well consistently defending each attack that came your way. Second place, I'm going to have to give to Back to the Future.
What?
Woo! Because Steven has made a point. The characters were not attacked, and the third movie, as Stuart has shown, does come down really to a preference. It does go back to the first movie, and so people who like the first movie probably also like the third movie for its roots.
Thank you, Stuart.
Logan, you made very good arguments, but in the end, the ending of Dark Knight Rises was kind of like, there's no way he could survive a nuke. It's a nuke.
More holes.
Sorry.
than a block of
I
Swiss
like that.
cheese.
Wrong. Wrong.
And the Dark Knight really does kind of carry the rest of the trilogy
Absolutely.
with it. Awesome. So to recap, first place Max, second place Steven, third place Logan. So now, but speaking of the Dark Knight, there is a transition. I was able to pull a segue out of this. Let's talk more about the man who created The Dark Knight and many other countless classic movies.
Bruce Wayne.
No. No. We are going to argue the best Christopher Nolan movie. So, who hasn't started yet? Max, or no, Logan, have you started? Yeah,
No,
Max started last time.
Yeah, I did. I think.
So Logan, you get to start.
You're up, kiddo.
Okay. My choice was Inception, and I chose Inception because it is one of the most original ideas in the film industry, I feel. It was a box office smash, and it was what I feel like the ultimate puzzle movie. It does a better job of being the type of puzzle movie that than Memento does. It was one of the few summer blockbusters that, while it did well with action, but it also was very intellectually sound as well. It had both aspects. It's widely recognizable, and for example, when something blows someone's mind, they'll say Inception. No one says Memento when something happens, or no one says The Dark Knight when something happens. So my choice is Inception.
Okay, we'll go right down the line to Max.
This question was easy. There was only one movie in the universe that is held up to the standard of God, and that is The Dark Knight. If I walked into church and there was a giant projector screening The Dark Knight, I wouldn't question it. People worship this movie, and deservingly so. On top of one of the best performances given by an actor, Heath Ledger as the Joker, The Dark Knight is beautifully directed with an intense and gripping script to go along with it. Hans Zimmer's score is masterful and features some of his best work. Everything needed to make a movie great is present within The Dark Knight. It is number 4 highest ranked movie on IMDb with a 9.0, one of 4 to reach 9.0 or higher.
Awesome. And Steven.
Okay, so Memento, like Inception, is unlike anything I've ever seen. If you don't know what it's about, okay, Memento follows the story of a man. You know, the main character's amnesiastic, so some people might have forgotten it.
Oh.
It is now, kiddo. The Dark Knight. I'm sorry. The way it uses bidirectional continuity and self-enclosed scenes as a means of portraying the amnesia was absolutely incredible. Filmmakers should take note of that technique. I'm amnesiastic too. You have to watch it twice to really get what's going on. Like, some of the best movies do that. The Prestige, another Christopher Nolan movie. Primer,
Inception.
great. I don't know about Inception. For these reasons, Memento is one of the most original plots, maybe not plots, one of these original movies that I've ever seen, and the best Nolan film to date.
Awesome. So let's get to it.
Okay, I've got to say one thing right off. You said Inception was an original plot. Wrong. Inception
Wrong.
bold-faced steals from a Sakoshi Kon 2006 anime film called Paprika. It had the exact same plot. The mirror thing where Ellen Page is pulling back the mirror from Paprika. The machine that goes into people's dreams from Paprika.
That was the farthest reach I think I have ever heard.
You can check it. You can see.
You can check
You can
it.
see the entire movie. It's almost shot for shot in some places.
Here's my problem with Memento. Put it all in chronological order.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it as good as it would be with the gimmick?
It's
It
terrible.
relies so much on its gimmick that people go, oh, well, that was refreshing. But if you put it all in order, I don't think it would have been as great.
Are you watching
Right,
it
and-
in
and-
chronological
yes,
order?
And
Well,
it loses speed as the movie progresses. It doesn't really hold up as the movie goes along.
And here's my problem with Inception. It's almost way too in over its head for its own good. Christopher Nolan's a little overrated. I don't know about how you guys feel about that. His Inception relies way too much on the exposition and the explaining of it all, and it's such an experience movie, and I hate experience movies because
Again, that's preference. That doesn't make
Yeah.
it whether
Well,
it's good or bad.
Yeah, but like people will go, well, I didn't really get it, but I loved it because
See?
the visuals were cool and all. But like other than that, there's nothing to it because it's so much explaining and confusion. Memento, it's too hard to follow for its own good, which is kind of the same as Inception, where The Dark
why you
Knight is
watch it
kind of
twice.
straightforward. It's a great cop drama, and people love cop dramas, but it's elevated and it's adding the most beloved superhero, Batman.
In The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger had to carry that entire movie. He did have a wonderful performance, but Bale's performance was lackluster. His raspy voice got on a lot of people's nerves.
Well, he
No
has to
one
do
really
that for the
liked
movie
it.
because, I mean, you can be like, oh, wait, that's Bruce Wayne's voice. I mean, he has to do it. I understand that people say that,
You
but he
you
has
do have to
within
change your
the
voice,
movie.
but that was the wrong voice change to make.
I thought it was great.
I didn't. It was not. It was not good
there's
to me.
Heath Ledger owns every scene he's in. I agree with you there. But there are so many other iconic sequences. The boat sequence at the end where there's
Heath
the two
Ledger
boats where
is
they
in
get
that.
blood. Well, he's not in the boat, but
He's
just-
making it what it is.
I understand that. but
Speaking
the
of
people-
sequences, there's so much action that it seems like it's nonstop in a bad way.
Well, I wouldn't say it's nonstop.
There's so much action that you get tired watching it.
There's a lot of politics
You want
within it,
something.
too.
You want something else besides action. I feel like the
there's
movie
the
is
whole
mostly
Harvey
action.
Dent subplot that I wouldn't say is a lot of action in it because it's all about.
The movie is mostly action, and it got very tiring if you watch it. It's
I'd actually say that the first half, maybe until like the Joker's like really introduced, rather than in, like the first opening scene, like the first half is kind of just meandering around, just kind of like in China or Hong Kong or wherever it was. It was
Yeah.
just kind of going.
But it all
and
comes back. It's not like
going.
it's like, ooh, that had no part in it later. It all comes back. People will get lost in visual effects easily. Look at the Transformers film. I mean, there's nothing there other than the visual effects. And look how successful those movies are. It's the same with Inception, where the only thing I can really remember about that film was the visual effects in the city turning and stuff. I mean, it's been a
You're
while
saying
since
you
I've seen
don't
it because I
remember
just
the
really had no
foghorn?
interest to watch it again. Memento, it really, like I said, relies on that gimmick to make it so refreshing and memorable. But like I said, put it in chronological order, then there's
You're not
really nothing.
watching
And-
it
and
in
also,
chronological
like,
order.
I'm just saying because you have to look at it that way because
You
that's
really
like I'm
don't.
saying because you're relying on that gimmick to like the that it happens backwards. But
Part of the fun is piecing it together in your
Well,
mind. It's
and-
like, how's this?
and
oh,
plus,
this.
my one of the problem I have with Memento is it doesn't create the same dramatic effect like the movies like The Usual Suspects or Point Blank does. It's not a very dramatic movie, and when it tries to be dramatic, it doesn't really pull it off well. It doesn't do drama well at all.
It was really
in the
more
movie.
of looking inside the character. Like, does he want to be happy? Does he want to constantly be searching for his wife's murderer? Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. Maybe just forget about this entire thing. I'm just making those jokes. I'm sorry.
well, let's look at other aspects where I think the directing of The Dark Knight is better than Inception's and Memento's, where The Dark Knight relies less on visual effects as Inception does.
But it relies so
And
much
the
more
score,
on action.
The score with Hans Zimmer, as he did Inception, the score for The Dark Knight is so much better than Inception's, where it's the wah, 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 just the noises, and there's nothing there. Fact-wise, Dark Knight has 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is higher than Inception's 86%, and Memento's 92%, and it's number 4 on IMDb. There's the quotes. Oh my God, the quotes.
Where's the trigger?
What's a good quote from your guys' movie?
Who is
exactly.
John G?
Well, there's
Constantly asking.
there's what doesn't kill you makes you simply stranger. You either die here. Okay.
Okay, 30 seconds. Let's start with Steven.
Okay, so Memento is completely original, not Paprika ripoff. It's not an established property. It's its own thing. And you're not watching it in chronological order. I don't know why you keep bringing that up. It was in going forward and going backward concurrently. There was a specific way to watch it, and it was the way it was presented. And that's the only way you're supposed to watch it. Ding.
We'll go to Max.
9 out of 10 times, or 10 out of 10 times, if a movie lover was asked what was Christopher Nolan's best film, The Dark Knight would be their answer. This movie is filled with iconic and gripping sequences and a brilliant performance by Heath Ledger. There's really nothing you can say negative about this movie. Christopher Nolan truly shines through this movie with his top-notch directing, and this is why it's his best movie. Everything comes together perfectly. For Inception, it over-explains, the exposition's way too heavy, and for Memento, I say that if you watch in chronological, it's because it relies so much on that gimmick for it to be considered good.
And Logan.
Inception to me is the greatest Christopher Nolan film. It's the ultimate puzzle movie. It keeps you guessing. You have to watch it multiple times to fully understand. It uses both action and intellect to fully tell the story, which most movies really can't do. With The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger carried that movie, and it was just nonstop action. And with Memento, it didn't really do drama very well. And like Max said, if it were told in chronological order, it wouldn't be a good movie. So my pick is Inception.
You don't watch it in chronological order.
Facts to be checked, Vaughn.
No facts, but I think we have some audience input.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay, so I just want to bring up that argument that keeps coming up about watching Memento in chronological order. I don't think that's entirely fair, considering the fact that that entire film is edited, directed, and produced with that in mind. It is not a gimmick. It is what the movie is built around, and it's a recurring theme inside of Christopher Nolan's films to begin with. You wouldn't take apart Dunkirk and put it in chronological order and then watch it, because that's not the way that it's made, and that's not the way that it should be viewed in the first place. So I don't think that's a fair argument to try and say that that's what makes Memento inferior to the other two. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
It's like taking the dream stuff out of Inception.
Just one little quick fun fact to throw out. I think with the Dark Knight Bruce Wayne voice, I think that was actually done in post-production. Like, he did have a change of voice, but like Christopher Nolan wanted it to actually be harsher, so they did that in post. Fun fact.
Where's the trigger?
Stewart fact.
Yeah. That's what.
The Dark
yes,
Knight.
Exactly. So.
Hate you.
Okay.
Decision.
Wait. There you go.
Mouth noises.
Thinking. Yep, thinking. Okay. So, Logan, I'm going to have to give you third place. Steven made some good points. He mentioned that there is another movie out there that has like some shot-by-shot recreations and
Concept.
and the visual effects, while extremely impressive for Inception, are kind of what sticks with most audience members after it's all said and done. Steven, I'm going to give you second place. I agree that it wasn't quite fair to keep bringing up the chronological order argument, because like if we put The Dark Knight in reverse chronological order, it would not be a good movie, I doubt. So I agree that it was Christopher Nolan's prerogative to put it in that exact order for a reason, and it should be judged in that order. Max, I'm going to give you first place because The Dark Knight is an excellent movie. I think you made good arguments that it has a good blend of action and action and intrigue, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and that Heath Ledger, it's very quotable, and it's just very popular appeal and got the critical appeal. So yes, to recap, first place Max, second place Steven, third place Logan. So, which series should get a reboot? Let's start with, is there anyone I haven't started with in the before thing?
I think we all went.
Okay, then I will start with Steven.
Okay. So my choice was The Matrix. The Matrix was an absolute revolution, no pun intended, when it came out, and it hasn't aged exceptionally well. The FX are kind of old by today's standards. The acting's really kind of stilted, and like the last two movies were really just a letdown in comparison to the first one. However, this can be remedied by a reboot. I feel like the Wachowski brothers' direction, Wachowski sisters now, their direction really kind of hamstrung the overall like great concept that the Matrix had and kind of just made it feel wooden. So if it was updated with a good character director, it could be improved. And I want to see how they tackle like their terminology. Like the red pill has taken on a whole new meaning in today's lexicon. So I want to see how they tackle that.
Awesome. We'll just go right down the line for this one. Max, if you
In the age of superhero movies, one deserves to be given a second chance, and that is Blade. The originals are average at best, and now that the rights have been reverted back to Marvel Studios, Blade would have a chance at joining the MCU and pretty much be guaranteed to have a well-made origin story, as Marvel has a pretty damn good track record of hiring people fit for the film assigned to them, or the Netflix treatment. I think it could go either way, preferably Netflix in my opinion. With a major push for diversity within the superhero genre is ideal, there is no better time to give Blade the reboot treatment.
And finally, Logan.
I chose Austin Powers. Mike Myers, I consider to be one of the greatest comedic actors and writers of all time. And Austin Powers is an eternally funny franchise, and Mike Myers would have a field day with today's politics and new action movies. He would just go off on like Kingsman and John Wick. Even though those are good movies, he would be able to make fun of them very well. With regards to the movies, they were a very consistent franchise. It was never a truly bad franchise, and I feel like that would transfer over now. I feel like if they kept the same two writers with Mike Myers, I feel like these movies could be just as funny or even funnier than the original movies, and I feel like it would be a wonderful reboot. So my pick for rebooted franchise is Austin Powers.
Gotcha. Okie dokie. 5-minute round starts now.
Okay, straight out the gate, I gotta like qualify what needs a reboot. Like Blade, terrible. The original trilogy, who saw those movies? Oh right, nobody. It occupies the same place that like the Resident Evil and Underworld franchises occupy, and that's like B-movie schlock.
But they were worse.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's why it needs the reboot treatment. Look at Daredevil. Look at what they did with that on Netflix. I mean, Daredevil Season 1 is incredible, and that's why I think Blade belongs in the darker tone of what Netflix is doing for that. I was a little shocked with your guys' choices, not going to lie. The Matrix, it was revolutionary for its time, and it won't be again. It's number 18 on IMDb, and I'm telling you right now that if the fans hear that they're doing a reboot, they're going to lose their mind, and there's just going to be problems right off the bat.
Matrix
For Austin Powers,
rebooted.
I got Dumb and Dumber 2 flashbacks where just leave it alone. You're right. They are good as they are. Just leave them alone. Mike Myers isn't necessarily in the shape to be coming back as Austin Powers, and just yeah, I mean, they had the Farley brothers come back for Dumb and Dumber 2, and it was just atrocious. So it's just leave it alone.
But I feel like Mike Myers needs to revitalize himself in regards to writing and acting in his movies. Like with Love Guru, it was awful. And I feel like the Austin Powers franchise would be a good way for him to reintroduce himself back into the fray of movies, and I feel like he would do very well with today's climate, with all of the politics and the new action movies. My thing with The Matrix, the only reason that I see to reboot it would be to revitalize Keanu Reeves, but John Wick already did that, so I don't really see a reason to reboot The Matrix.
The thing about Blade is the visual effects are so bad in that movie, and they can definitely be redone, and they need to be updated. The screenplay is a little and there's just way too much to improve upon compared to what you two guys have picked. Austin Powers was great for its time, and so was The Matrix, and it's just best to leave them both alone, because if they reboot it, there's only be problems. Look what they did with Dumb and Dumber. I know I said it, but that was just, and Mike Myers, it'd be a great way to come back, but it could be also a great way to also tear down his career again, because The Love Guru was atrocious, and that movie
bad.
Devastated him.
Yeah, it did, but like I said before, Austin Powers has a good track record, and I feel like it would be easy for him to get back into the comedic aspect because he already had so much success with it. There's a lot of ways they could bring just going off from the third movie. They could have Scotty be the main villain. They could go after him. There's a lot of ways that they could reboot it in a good way. With Blade, I feel like the movies are just so bad that I don't really Like it.
They don't deserve.
No,
Look
they
at
don't.
Daredevil, the Ben Affleck Daredevil. It was atrocious, and look what they did. Look what Netflix did to that. I mean, Daredevil season 1
Ben
is
Affleck
incredible.
had one movie to make a dumpster fire. Blade had 3 to make 3
Yeah,
dumpster
Blade is
fires.
Yeah.
There's
There were 3
so
dumpster
much to
fires.
improve upon where it would be better right off the bat.
I feel like we do need a vampire reboot, but I don't think Blade is that one.
We needed
Twilight
Austin
reboot,
Powers for 10 years ago.
Would
Matrix.
we just need it more now? Then, if we needed it 10 years ago,
no,
we
he's
need
just
it more
not in the
now.
shape
We-
to come back. And if
the-
it's anybody
with-
else than Mike Myers, it'd be a problem. And Mike Myers just really isn't fit for that role anymore.
No, he
You
is.
see, like Austin Powers doesn't need one. The original trilogy, it's fine. It's great.
Exactly.
It doesn't need one. If you want to go see Austin Powers, just watch the
Exactly.
It could be even better though. Like,
Or it could just ruin it. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, while you say Austin Powers has a good track record, it really doesn't critically, because I'm pretty sure the.
neither does Blade.
Exactly. But that's why there's so much to improve
But it's
upon.
so
Austin
bad.
Powers doesn't really.
The
it is
last
bad.
Blade
That's why
movie is in the
That's why it
20
needs a reboot, because
No,
it needs to be improved
It's so
upon.
bad it doesn't deserve a reboot.
That's what you could have said about Daredevil. But
Let's
look
hear
what
more
happened
about
there.
Matrix.
Matrix,
Yeah.
dude, it was revolutionary for its time, and there's nothing maybe problems. I mean, it was good, but look at all the action movies we get today. I mean, it's not going to be a standout as it was back
No.
then.
I mean, if it's got the established like name to it, you can get like talent on it. Get Guillermo del Toro. He did great at Pacific Rim. I think you could get like something like that, only not giant robots. But if like the internet age in which we live in, like that's a perfect fit for the Matrix themes.
With the internet age we live in, there will be YouTube comments on the trailers. There will be
Yeah.
Reddit people going insane.
So many
Everyone
dislikes
will
on that
go
trailer.
Nuts.
So many dislikes on
Nuts.
that
It's
trailer.
just leave it alone as it is. People adore. It's 18th on IMDb. People adore that original. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Austin Powers. I love that first one, and as it progresses, it gets weaker and weaker, and it's just best to leave them alone.
But it could come back and be a hit today.
or it could be
really
terrible.
could.
We'll go the other way. We'll start with Logan this time.
I feel the Austin Powers franchise needs a reboot because it could do way better than it already did with the climate today, with the new action films today, with Mike Myers to make fun of, and I think Mike Myers needs to be revitalized, and I think Austin Powers is the best way to do that. With Blade, I feel like the movies are too bad for it to be rebooted. They're just really bad. And with Matrix, like I said, the only reason to revitalize it would be to revitalize Keanu Reeves, but John Wick did that, and I don't see it being rebooted.
And Max.
Out of the 3 choices, I think it's pretty easy to say that Blade is by far the most deserving as a reboot due to the originals being average at best and needs some things to be improved upon, such as the special effects, cheesiness of the dark material, and plenty to update. Once again, with a major push for diversity within the age of superhero movies, now at its peak, it's time to give Blade another shot. Leave Austin Powers alone. The original is perfect as it is. Just don't update it. Could be bad, and Mike Myers could ruin himself again. And within the Matrix, there are too many iconic scenes within that they would try to replicate, and they would fail.
And Steven.
With the Matrix, it has a balance between potential and wasted potential. And if you got a reboot of that, you'd be able to get back what was lost. Now, with Blade, it didn't have any potential to start with. It was just a terrible anti-hero of the 90s, and he doesn't deserve any special treatment. Austin Powers, his raunchy sex comedy, that bit has been done to death in recent years. It just wouldn't work in today's day and age. If you got a sequel, that'd be okay.
Okay. Any facts to check, Vaughn?
No facts.
Any thoughts?
Sorry, I have a few thoughts.
Oh boy.
I just want to say I think Steven hit it on the head with his conclusion. I think, Max, you kind of shot yourself in the foot when you're kind of doing both arguments where, and this is what Steven said in his conclusion, is that Austin Powers does have that good following with 3 good movies that, you should leave alone. Whereas Blade has, none of their movies are really good, but the argument that you're supporting was that should get. And then what Steven said at his conclusion, it has a mix of both, which it has that cult following, but it still has that kind of bad potential that people may want to see it come back and be good again. And I think with that conclusion, Steven will win it for me.
Gotcha. I think I have to agree with you, Stuart. Steven, I'm giving you first place because I think, especially in the internet age today, I think it'd be interesting how generations take the Matrix. And I think it's redeemable enough to warrant a second chance, but also it's got things that would definitely benefit from improvement. Logan, I'm going to give you second place. because I think you're right that Austin Powers does have the potential with like new action movies of today, and I think that Mike Myers would be able to do a lot with that. Max, I'm sorry, you tried really hard, you made compelling arguments, but in the end, the source material was just outright bad, and who wants, I mean, you know, poop is poop.
Look at Daredevil, man.
You could refurbish poop, but it.
You can
And
polish a
I
turd.
just and as for the Netflix treatment, it's also been kind of hit and miss with Marvel, with like Iron Fist not doing that well while Daredevil, and so I just feel like it would be more risk than reward to remake Blade. So for this round, Steven first place, Logan second place, and Max third. Awesome. So what does that bring the score to, Paige?
So for first place right now, we have a tie between Max and Steven at 11 points and Logan in second/third with 8.
Ooh. So it's coming down
Nobody wants to see that.
to. So just to refresh, I'm going to ask you a question that has two choices. Whoever shouts out the choice they want first gets to argue that choice. The competitor will then be forced to argue the alternative in a 30-second argument, and you each get a 15-second rebuttal. So, your question. Who is the better Ryan? Ryan Gosling or Ryan Reynolds?
Ryan Reynolds.
Gosling. Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Reynolds.
Max started first, so... And you wanted Ryan Reynolds anyway? Okay, well then it works out. Perfect.
Ryan Reynolds, I mean, La La Land nominated for Best Actor in that. Ryan Reynolds had a terrible start to his career, while Ryan Gosling is at the peak, and Ryan Reynolds only has Deadpool right now for his main thing.
You know, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Deadpool can lead into good things. You know, he might have been Green Lantern in the past, but he's improved. And that improvement is visible in Deadpool. And Deadpool is going to be super successful down the line. We already know that Marvel's going to make tons of sequels
Well,
to that.
that's an opinion. Ryan Gosling, he's way better right now. I mean, he's got the best. He's nominated for Best Actor. I mean, if you say it's where it's finished, look at where Ryan Gosling is now compared to Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds, he's really, I mean, begging for Deadpool to be good because that's all he's got.
Well, I think if you say he started off poorly, you've got to look at, he was in American Pie, right? American Pie was funny. And, you know, he might not have been in American Pie.
I think...
What?
Oh, okay, this is your 15. This is your 15, Steven.
Yeah, okay. American Pie was good, and Ryan Reynolds was in American Pie, as far as I know. And he might not have been. I might have shot myself in the foot. Waiting is what I was thinking of. And Deadpool's going to be good, no matter what you say.
Okay, maxed out. It's time for your 15.
That's just what you think. It could be good, I guess. Ryan Gosling, I mean, if we look at the facts, nominated for Best Actor, La La Land, he's got Blade Runner 2049 coming out, which is getting rave reviews. That's a fact. While as Deadpool 2 is just based on your opinion. Well, it could be good. He was in Turbo, R.I.P.D., and those movies did terribly, and he was really riding on Deadpool.
Okay.
I choose Ryan Seacrest.
Oh.
Was Ryan Reynolds...
Hey, didn't he try to high-five a blind guy?
Was Ryan Reynolds in American Pie?
I don't think so.
Fact checker Vaughn.
He was in Waiting. I know he's in
Waiting was great.
I was thinking of
why
Waiting.
why don't you bring up
I'm pretty
Waiting? Those are good movies.
Ever seen Waiting?
Oh, they're so good.
I'm riding on this. This is my entire argument here.
Checking.
Wow, I
He
didn't
was
know
not.
the most, like...
Oh.
He was not?
Oh.
Oh, wow. I didn't know the most suspense tonight was going to be whether or not Ryan Reynolds was in American Pie. Okay. Thoughts? Nah, just me? Okay. I have to give it to Max. Ryan Gosling has been nominated, and he has had a strong career, where Ryan Reynolds is kind of, at this point, banking on the success of Deadpool to propel him into other things. Not saying that he doesn't have the capabilities, it's just his career has not been as fortunate to him as Ryan Gosling's. So, for this episode of Cardinal Film Fights, first player is Max, first place is Max, not first player. I mean, first place is Max, second place is Steven, and third place is Logan. So, Thank you all for a very inspiring fight. If you got any questions or certain topics you want us to debate, leave us a comment or tell us on our website. And remember to hit that subscribe button, and if you like today's fight, share us on social media. I'm Mark Rollins, and this is Cardinal Film Fights.
Smash that like button.